Welcome to The Advocate, a program that thrashes out all the topical issues of the day.
We've had Dasuki chilling in and out. We don't even know what is going on.
We never actually ever hear the truth. Everybody's the same, and that the same thing that's been going on with Jonathan is going on right now.
Statistically, women are more than the men, but in Nigeria, politics is more of a game of strength than numbers.
One of the reasons why we don't have more women in politics in Nigeria is for as long as political meetings continue to take place in the middle of the night.
Exactly.
Nigerians have never been more ready for a change. Somebody's got to sit down to say that this is my strategy for making change.
And it has to be a united.
Frankly, Nigeria is becoming a very ugly place. Everywhere. In the villages are worse.
We have a heritage, but dirty heritage.
Basically, and that's it. I don't think we know beautiful things anymore.
You depress me.
Look, Ankara and Tiwantiwa.
Less than 2 weeks into the new year, and no one can deny that 2019 has attained blast-off. Are we to be shocked or shamed by footage of a breathless Dino Melaye? Are we to be merely appalled or start a revolt over the issue of Amina Zakari and her qualifications as INEC head of Coalition Center? Should we applaud or be dismissive of the recent PDP suspension of its deputy national chairman, who even more recently cross-carpeted to the opposition? All this, like I say, and it's barely halfway through the first month of the year. Happy New Year and welcome to The Advocate, where we tell it like it is, the bold, the fearless, and the troublemaking. On today's edition, Liborous will be challenging, what really can your PVC get for you? Uche will be gingering the conversation by taking a poke at the umpire in the House, INEC. Chuka appears to be taking the common sense approach by proposing that we get informed before we go to the polls. Makes sense. Ireti being Ireti must take the road less traveled by exploring our apparently use and dispose culture when it comes to voting rights of Nigerians in diaspora. And so you're left with me, so let's jump straight in. With an overkill of campaign posters, especially by the highly favored sons of the Godfathers, I found myself considering as I drove down the road, do these posters actually influence who we eventually vote for? What informs our choice, and how informed are our choices? In the absence of systematic town hall style discussions where we meet our candidates and feel their pulse, it would seem like the spin doctors, aka poster plasterers, have a point. Since it is said that out of sight is out of mind, surely by keeping certain candidates continually in our face, we will zombie-like be programmed to vote for them when the D-Day comes, Abi? I own up that I know little about many of the potential candidates and even less about what they stand for. Am I then reduced to voting merely on face value? Voting based on who dons my tribal costume and hails me in my native language? Who is to blame for our state of ignorance this late in the game, if indeed we are ignorant? More importantly, what can be done to rectify the situation and make us politically literate before it's too late? Or do we not know that selling our birthright does not merely result from selling our PVC to the highest bidder? I threw the discussion open to my fellow advocates.
Yeah. Okay, so how can we be more informed, right? Well, debates.
Or even to say, what informs our choice, even as you are now.
What informs our choice? Well, I can tell you that my choices are informed by how the politicians behave leading up to the election. So I'll tell you, it's this week actually, I was on my way and didn't really realize why I was stuck in a lot of traffic. And then I suddenly saw all these people wearing APC Ashebi, Sanwo-Olu, Abi, that's how to pronounce his name. Sanwo-Olu and all of that. And I'm sorry guys, I was pissed. Why, if you're running for government, would you hold me up in traffic? How is that going to make you look good to me? And then on top of that, people wearing, his Ashebi and everything, they were beating people in broad daylight. I mean, they beat some guy to a stupor. He couldn't even stand up, And I was watching this with all the fear in my heart, thinking, you know what? If we stay in traffic till about 6 p.m. or when it starts getting dark, somebody's going to start attacking my car. Somebody's going to start trying to steal from me. I was like livid.
So he's not your favorite character.
He's not. Secondly, I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, you're spending all this money on posters. It may seem like I'm attacking the APC candidate for Lagos State, but It is ridiculous. I mean, you cannot just keep posting your picture everywhere.
So what would you have him do? How would he win?
But it's actually not him that's spending the money on the posters. Can you look at it? It says Pathfinders. Most of them are sponsored.
Okay.
So please, you can't hold the candidate responsible. If Liborous decides to go
but
for
he
governor,
could be a bit
I
more
can choose to
responsible about it.
No, it's not him.
No, he can say to
no,
them,
it's actually not him.
No,
it's
he
wrong.
can actually
They
say
have to
chill.
They have
can
to
we
get permission
have,
from what's the name of those advertising? LASA.
Yes.
They get permission from LASA. And if you're able to get your permission from LASA, you can place your advert wherever LASA says you should say so. Please,
All I'm saying is that it needs to be toned down.
Someone who knows everywhere that his pictures are. Right?
Well, he definitely knows in Maryland where,
well,
he does.
He probably knows in Bodyland
No, exactly. Because that's where the
I don't
shop
think he
is.
would know that. By my house.
The peacemaker wants to come in.
Let the peacemaker.
Yeah, somebody told me yesterday that now if you want to describe the distance, between one point and another point, you can actually use the campaign posters. Yeah. You say, okay, if you pass 3 Sanwo-Olu posters,
and then one Agbaje.
You see one Agbaje, and then you make a right just by that Agbaje poster.
No, you make a right just by Banky W.
So, but really,
I love it.
what's informed our choices?
Yes. Do the posters help?
Yes, they do. To a very
Do you
large
think
extent.
so?
Yes,
I
they
think
do.
so.
Yes,
Do
they
you
do.
think so?
Because
And that's what someone-
now you hear people saying, I'm not seeing Agbaje.
Yes. And
His posters are not, anywhere.
Yes, but is that
So
because...
it's not in your face. Because largely permit me to use the word, our voters are largely uneducated. And so the questions,
So it's about vivid.
you'll be looking at,
Optics.
they won't look at it.
Yeah.
It's about,
Optics.
those I am
But I'm
seeing.
even saying, even
And
we that claim to be educated,
Exactly.
how much interface do we have with these people? What do I really know beyond
But that's
what
because you
Exactly.
choose not to.
Okay,
so let's
okay,
just
so
say
tell
we.
me- well, let
You
me
choose
speak for
not
myself.
to.
I speak for myself.
Exactly.
What we should
I think
be
it's by
doing,
choice.
Really, what we should be doing to change the narrative
Okay.
should be, even those of us that are informed, should not be voting on the basis of the posters that we see.
Oh, no,
Exactly.
absolutely.
But, before the election, you saw issue-based, and somebody will ask you, what are the issues?
Okay.
And even some of us that are talking about issue-based will find it difficult to narrate the issues.
Oh, I know what issues
No, not
I have
you.
with the
I'm not
previous
talking about
government.
No, but what did the
And so if
candidates
these
stand
people,
for?
like Uche had said, if they refuse to come down to discuss the issues,
Exactly.
and then you can decide, you know what, a Banky W, I know, I would rather vote for
Exactly.
this man.
Thank
What?
you.
Yeah.
And so that's why some people take it upon themselves to say, okay, let's bring them, on a platform.
I'll
to debate,
tell you what
to
informs
discuss.
my choices. What informs my choices are if they come out and they actually debate.
Exactly.
So every time I see them on TV, like for instance, I must tell you, when I saw those posters again of the APC candidate for Lagos State, he showed up on channels and he actually put forward his case.
Of course he can.
And for the first time, because I didn't know anything except the posters, for the first time, I actually thought, wow, this guy has actually done all these things. This guy has been behind
But
a lot of these
more
things.
about you as a voter.
We're talking about why I'm informed.
No.
But he was
Allow me
lying,
to
though.
say,
He was
it
lying
says
about what
a
he
lot
claimed to
more
do.
about
I don't know whether he
Allow
was
me.
lying.
It says a lot more about you not making an effort to know about the candidates and making a judgment based on the
No,
photo.
actually, I disagree
That
with
is
you,
not
Ireti.
an
It is
answer. How can you say
up to
somebody's-
them. It's up to them to make themselves known.
I get what she's saying.
From a
Where does the
photo.
press come in?
No, wait, let's
making us more
strike
informed?
a balance here.
Right.
What Uche is saying.
Thank you, please.
Looking at the posters only, it will be difficult for you to judge. But after listening to the man
Thank you.
on TV, was like, I didn't know this man.
press.
I'm impressed
But
now.
can I just say,
And you know what?
does
Now
not
I am
say
not
about you, and I still
No, it doesn't say anything about
No,
me.
actually,
It's
it
even about the
does.
press.
No,
Okay, but Ireti,
actually,
what
allow
do you
me to
expect
say-
the typical
No,
person to do?
Allow me. I'm not here to talk for the typical person.
Okay.
I'm here to
Him
talk
when I heard
for
him.
myself.
Okay, what
and
do
I'm
you
going to say to you, if you base a judgment,
sort of-
right? If you base a judgment on a photo that you've seen, because you've seen so many of it along the way, and you presume that person is an idiot, then it's more of an indictment on you rather than the person. Allow me to finish, please. That's number one. Number two is, if I was really curious and think this person is annoying me, what I'll do is go read about them. Literally, that's what I'm going to do. I don't even care whether
Some
I
of
hear
us
about
don't have
them.
time
I don't
to
even
read.
hear whether.
And-
But you know what? We're all on social media and everything. But what informs my choice?
Yes.
Is the things that matter to me, is my local environment.
Okay.
And I want to know what you're going to do. And I think that's what we need to really be driven by what's happening between within our locality.
Quickly,
That's it, and I can make that case.
The message for me is candidates, don't just put your posters in our faces.
Thank you.
Even though these posters to some people, it creates, an impression. But
superficial
find alternative ways of talking to us or talking
That's
with
what
us.
I'm saying.
That will create a more lasting impression. And then also people will tell you debates don't win election, but we're gradually moving there. It is through these discussions that we're able to assess, some of what you can do. And so that's why I also think that apart from, posters, even their supporters that are putting out these posters should find ways also of trying to engage the people.
Yeah.
If you come to me,
I feel like I'm a standalone here. So
Yeah.
you're saying to me, no, hold on.
Today.
So you're saying to me, you haven't seen the whole live chat with Sanwo-Olu on social media where you can question it.
We're not
you
all
haven't
sleeping on social
No,
media.
you don't have to.
I
Forget
think you
social
might
media.
have to.
Actually, the man has been to so many different worlds. Let me tell you something. He's done walks. He's done come and walk with me.
Okay.
He's actually done a come and walk with Sanwo-Olu.
Are you sure you're not on his campaign?
No, I am not on his campaign. It's
I don't
because
know
people choose. Yeah, but if you choose to bury your head in the sand,
We are not
then
burying-
you're not going to know.
No,
Let's
no,
just
no,
say
no, no,
they
no.
are finding
Chuka
alternative
is
ways to
trying to
talk to
get a
us.
word in.
Sorry.
No, I don't know. I still think
People say they don't know. I can't.
I still think that Liborous' point about these pathfinders who are spending money
Thank you.
putting
Everywhere.
posters everywhere, they should use their brains.
Yes, they should. I
and
agree.
look for other ways to help someone.
But what I think and what should inform our decision should be that, yes, I agree, most of the candidates are doing so much to try to talk to people, hold town hall meetings, but they are not doing enough. They need to do more to reach out, and then also their supporters need to find a way of reaching out more. Do more of town hall.
You're saying that, but I know candidates
opportunity to ask questions at those meetings and then relate, and that's where you were talking about your area. So if you come to my area, landlords,
Your local area, yes.
meetings or residential meetings, for example, would be able to ask questions and then draw.
And it's a
up,
closer, more intimate.
Yeah,
group,
I know a candidate that's doing that, and you say do more, but doesn't do more require more resources, more funds? Like all these candidates
Stop spending money on posters and direct.
Yeah, and that's what he's
Exactly.
doing, and he's utilizing social media to the best of his ability, and he's doing town halls and everything. But I can tell you, it's still
You
like
should
a
give him a
drop.
shout
It's
out.
still like it's still like a drop in the ocean, compared to
Exactly.
to
I
the
get what
others.
you're saying. Money, election,
and yet
election,
every
election.
day he's engaging
But could we not
the
even-
public,
could we not
with
even-
issues.
Could we not even
why?
ask the question, if people are doing it like that, which is the proper way to do it,
No.
and other people, I'm coming,
It's just the
let me
poor
land,
way.
I haven't
There's no
landed,
proper way.
Let's say it's the
the
way
poor
to get people engaging rather than the poster thing. If people are doing it like that, and yet the populace are still finding it more impressive, the poster approach. If at the end of the day you go and engage, it's a bit like, to name a few, Jimmy Agbaje's campaign the previous year, I was so impressed, but it wasn't enough. So it may be that you do the
not
town
because it
hall
wasn't
and you're
enough.
still
Yeah,
not
it wasn't
doing enough.
about it being
you
not
see,
enough.
Okay.
Take the for example. That previous year, he was able to reach out more.
Absolutely.
But this
Yes,
year,
Very
more
polished
funding.
campaign.
4 years down the line, he's not reaching out more. Why? Not because he can't reach out, but because as at the
doesn't
time
have
the
as much
people
funding.
needed him, not even funding.
Yes.
At the time the people needed him, they needed somebody to be a voice for the opposition in Lagos.
For
He wasn't
3
there.
years.
For 3 years, he wasn't
And that's
there.
always my problem with Jimmy
So that's
Agbaje.
also
That's
be
why
a
he's
big
never
problem.
won my vote.
And then also, for the APC candidate, it is easier to point to continuity. It is easier to point to the
pattern.
You don't have to work as hard.
framework, the
Yeah,
pattern.
so then why are they
And
working
then-
over time? That's what I'm trying to
but you still
understand.
have to work
If they
to
don't
win.
need to work that
They were
hard,
running
why
scared
are
at
they
one point.
stressing us out with all this
and that's why,
overkill?
They were running
Chuka,
scared.
look, you can't take it for granted. We all know. You can't take it for granted that you're always going to be the chief boss in charge.
That's right.
At any time, there's always a million people who's waiting to basically throw you off that
you off,
pedestal
correct.
and take your space.
Yeah.
So, and also to win our votes, and this is the thing that I agree with you, where I've always had a problem with Jimmy Agbaje, is that I'm sorry, you can't suddenly appear like a leap year every 4 years and think that you're going to get my vote. No way. Because where are you when I need you to speak on my behalf? In 3 years, be a vocal opposition. It's the same thing that I say about Remi Shania. She's an opposition on Twitter. I don't know where else she is an opposition in. You know, so be a vocal opposition. When the government brings out a policy, right? Yeah. So just a counter policy. Yeah. That's what you're supposed to do. Yeah. So this is it. So now, what APC are doing in Lagos State, and you know, people can resent APC all they want. I totally disagree with that resentment.
We're not resenting APC
no, but people
per se.
Do. No, people do, and I think it's a loads of codswallop. I still say, unless you guys can come in there and totally dedicate 16, 18, 25 years of your life to getting Lagos to the point where it is, where we are now able to complain that roads are not good. Remember 16, 18 years ago when Mariwa was in Lagos State? Do you remember how dirty Lagos was? No, most people forget so quickly. Because exactly, I wasn't here either, but like I said, if we read about it, it's all there, right? People have amnesia. So let's be frank with each other. Like Liborous said, continuity. You can see the pattern.
I don't know. I'm really beginning, this is beginning to sound like a campaign.
Well, no, it's beginning to sound like
but the point still remains that no matter what you think about APC, people aren't getting the message and they're not doing a good enough job.
Yeah,
so they need to do more to reach out to people and convince
us. Well,
if
they got the message or not, if he wins or if he loses.
Well, that may not be a function of getting the message necessarily.
It is.
Really, for me,
there are other factors at play.
You need to actually strike a balance. APC, like them or hate them, they've been able to do something, you know, different in Lagos State, which also others are not copying, and then which to a very large extent they are like pace setters.
Yes.
Fashola came, and I can say that APC, its government at the center today, largely to the good works of Fashola.
But let's not forget that the topic we're discussing is not about APC.
I know, I'm beginning to wonder.
What do we need to do?
That's where I'm going.
This is
that's how
what
inform our choices. And
do you want that to continue or not?
Fashola came, and people saw that, look, government can be different. And people were like, look, what is happening in Lagos, we want it replicated. And so you saw Edo followed, then Ondo, Ekiti, and then Oshun. And so gradually, the politicians also became aware that, look, people are becoming, their awareness is growing. So people's choices, you know, also are beginning to
more
vary.
Informed.
No, more informed. And not just about, yes, because it's the ruling party and so you must win. It's about, people are going to, on the day of reckoning, people are going to ask you, what did you do? And what can you benchmark these promises with? And I think we should take it a notch further. As elections are around the corner, we should, you know, look less at the posters and ask more.
Okay, on that note, actually, Liborous, why not take us further with your topic? What can your PVC actually get from?
Yeah, fantastic. How much can your PVC do? Bishop Matthew Hassan Chuka was quoted as saying, Nigerian political and educational system has surprising outcomes. The smartest students pass with first class and get admission to medical and engineering schools and thereafter look for jobs. The second class students get MBA and LLB and look for jobs to manage the first class students. The third class students enter politics and rule both the first and the second class students. But the failure enter the underworld of crime and control the politicians and the businesses. And the best of all of these, who didn't attend school at all, become prophets and everyone follows them. While it may not be the case that the bishop's segmentation is cast in stone, it is nonetheless the representative of the caliber of people that took advantage of our political landscape since 1999. As we negotiate the bend to another general election, the slogan has suddenly become either to go get your PVC or do you have a PVC, which is an instrument that shows you are eligible to vote. The question then is, what can your PVC achieve in the face of the glaring third class and dropout political class to select from? Hypothetically, in the midst of 100 mumus or 100 dropouts seeking to get your votes, your PVC can only elect one out of the lot. Beyond getting PVC, the way out of this, for me, is that the best and our first class to participate in the political process by standing for elections instead of looking for jobs to serve the politicians. As they say, politics is too serious a business to be left in the hands of professional politicians alone. If only we know the multiplying effect of uninformed political decisions taken by an uneducated governor who gets to office on the basis of quotas, or the fact that he's been asked to come and go or has to come and run by a political godfather, we would all forget about these PVCs and rather be the one the PVCs are selecting from. So my advice would be, don't ask me, go get your PVC. Instead, ask me to be the PVCs.
100 uneducated movies. At this point, the TV station will say the views of this particular gentleman.
But really, for me, it's here we are. We just talked about posters.
Yeah.
You also look at the caliber of some persons. Look at the last election in Osun. You call the candidates and he comes, he dances, and then you know. And so even your PVC.
Do you have anything against senators
No,
dancing?
I'm just saying your PVC will only select from all of this. And now here we are. Also, you say some people will tell you, why are we recycling old people? Because we have refused to be part of the process. We wait till 1 or 3 months.
But is that really the case? Because when you were talking, I was going through in my head some of the educated politicians I know.
No, I'm not.
Is it really the case that overwhelming? Yeah. So
That's
how?
The
and even now with the new crop
stone.
of politicians, is it not shifting a bit?
At what point did this new crop come out? Let me say.
No, I'm still going to vote, but I'm kind of like being strategic with my
most
voting.
of these people who are in what I call fringe parties is that you see them.
Why are you laughing?
That wasn't a compliment.
2 months to election.
They can't help it. It's not their
And then
fault.
they want to jam pack everything
Yes,
into
exactly.
one
Exactly.
social media
Yes.
discussion.
Yeah.
But like I made an example with Jimmy Agbaje. It's a marathon. It's not a 100 meters dash.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the problem with Jimmy. You feel like he doesn't have the energy or the stamina.
Contested how many times?
4 times.
12 years.
Try.
And
Is that the standard now?
consistency.
Well, he's just got to be consistent.
You have age on your side. You have to be
consistent.
consistent.
You have to be consistent.
right.
You have to. Some of us that are in the media always,
Yes.
we've been arrested at some point addressing these issues.
The same thing with Atiku. We have to give that to Atiku as well. He's been consistent. He's been
I don't
around.
know if that's the
So
standard.
you don't
I'm not
just-
impressed.
That's why I'm saying
Longevity.
that
No,
the
it's staying in the public
political
eye.
space is largely occupied by these people, and that's why the thugs will be the one to dictate what should happen, and why the rest of us are seated in the comfort of our home and discussing on Twitter. But if we consistently engage the process, not just once election is around the corner, we all come out, and then after the election we'll go back.
Rome wasn't built in a day.
Rome, exactly. And so we should consistently, even after the election, someday, take Pakistan for example. The Prime Minister of Pakistan left the moment he retired from cricket. He started a message,
been
a
at it
movement.
for a long time.
People didn't believe in him, but 15 years down the line,
he's now become the
he's now the
president.
Prime Minister.
Prime Minister, rather.
So Tope, and then
it's
also
just starting
to
now.
round up on this. If I will stand with you, even if I'm the one standing alone, provided I believe in you.
Yes,
If you believe
and if
in
you
Tope,
believe in him,
stand
vote
with
for
him.
him.
So
I totally
the problem
agree.
with Nigerians are Ganifa me, but they believed in Ganifa me. But when he stood for presidential elections, so will my vote count?
Yes.
And so nobody, apart from a few of us, voted for him, and it was disappointing. Stand with him, even if you.
So elaborate on this. Be the PVC.
So I'll come.
instead of
So that's where it's scary, and it actually falls into the whole bracket of your PVC thing, because I've often believed with this whole PVC thing. Have you got your PVC? Do you have your PVC? Get your PVC. And I often ask, what do you think that PVC means? What real power do people believe that it has for them or it gives them? And I think if you don't, because I beg you, a lot of people see it as just ID card.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's correct.
A lot of people see it, and then there's an urban slang for it. I've forgotten. It's like passport verification Canada or something. Yes, really, because so many people are
want to
shifting
get
over to Canada, getting out of the country. That's what I believe is called in the in the youth space. So you ask yourself, and for somebody like me, so much of what Liborous is saying is so. I mean, for me, we're so on the same track. On this
today is a new day.
We're on this.
It's a new year.
We are on this ideology.
Yeah.
This one, because
and they're sitting close to
we
each other.
must. I keep saying, unless you want to make a difference, unless you're ready to invest the time to make a difference, then don't bother. I have been volunteering in this country. I've lived in this country now for 10 years, 11 years this month. And there's been 2 elections, and I've volunteered for each one. And that's how I know. When people say to me, "Oh, Ireti, how do you know so much? You didn't even grow up here." Because I chose. Why did I start volunteering? Okay. Because I wanted to learn about how elections are won in Nigeria, what they do, what happens, about the politics of Nigeria.
So
because
when you
guess what?
decide to go into
exactly.
election,
Because
you
if
know
I
what
now
to do.
decide, I
announcing
promise you. No, if I actually decide, people always say to me, why don't you go into politics? I say, because I speak. I'm too blunt. They'll probably have me assassinated, but put that aside. The fact of the matter is, should I choose to, I can say, this is what I've done.
something to reference.
Right? Half of these people, like you call them fringe, all these fringe parties, they don't even serve in their local communities. They haven't even used their PVC. Ask them when they first got their PVC.
Yeah.
Ask all of them, when did they first get their PVC? So no, you're right. You
But
know,
let me add
stop
let me
going
just
on
add
about
something
get your
more
PVC
to what
and be the
Liborous.
PVC.
Let me just add a little more to what you said, because you talked about 100 mumus who are on offer, essentially. But I'm saying, doesn't it not go further than that? Because even when you look at just the populace, where these people are going to come from, the education standard has dropped so vastly since, when people used to brag about, learning or going to school here, that even if you begged everybody to volunteer themselves, you'll still find that the people who are coming forward, like the graduates now, some of them can't even write a sentence without grammatical errors.
Your political leadership.
So you don't
has
even
a
have
way
enough.
of
It falls back into
contributing
each other. It all falls back in.
And so the world as we speak is diversified to a knowledge-based economy. Here we are discussing, agriculture and...
Sorry, say that again. The political leadership have made some contribution to...
No, what I said that your political leadership has a way also of affecting
the education.
the education, governance generally.
Oh, they affect and affect.
Take China,
Yes.
for Silicon Valley, it's all about education.
Yeah.
And so that's why in China today, they are diversifying to knowledge-based economy. Because if you have yam, the only thing that will change the price of yam is when you add value to it. And so, if you have political leaders that do not understand
the value of education,
the standard of your education will definitely drop. And so, what you need to do now is, for those of us that are educated, should not just go queue up to get PVC. Be the ones that the PVC should be selecting.
Of course.
Because you don't sit down in your house and wake up one day and say, you're not known in your local environment, you say you want to be president. You should start from somewhere. Walk the ladder, understand the environment that you live in, be part of the process.
So the point you're really saying is that these people aren't really passionate about serving Nigeria. They just sort of, they just sort of wake up and look at it as a way to, make a quick buck.
Truly, in Edo State, the governor, Obaseki, you would have thought, in a way, I'm not saying he's doing well right now, but basically, he's an educated person, very educated, and he has found his way there.
Yeah.
But look at the people around him.
Liborous, you can't keep putting down third-class graduates, because just because you get a third class doesn't mean
that. Is that what Liborous says?
Yes, in his script.
On that note, since we all seem to be generally agreeing,
graduates will now go and cry and say my life is over.
No, it can't be like that. Okay, it's time for us to go on a quick break, and when we return, Uche will be turning the heat up as if things aren't heated enough already. Welcome to The Advocate, a program that thrashes out all the topical issues of the day.
We've had Dasuki chilling in and out. We don't even know what is going on.
We never actually ever hear the truth. Everybody's the same, and that the same thing that's been going on with Jonathan is going on right now.
Statistically, women are more than the men, but in Nigeria, politics is more of a game of strength than numbers.
One of the reasons why we don't have more women in politics in Nigeria is for as long as political meetings continue to take place in the middle of the night.
Exactly.
Nigerians have never been more ready for a change. Somebody's got to sit down to say that this is my strategy for making change.
And it has to be a unite.
Frankly, Nigeria is becoming a very ugly place everywhere. In the villages are worse.
We have a heritage, but dirty heritage.
Basically, and that's it. I don't think we know beautiful things anymore.
You depress me. Look, Ankara and Tiwantiwa.
Welcome back. You're watching The Advocate on Plus TV Africa. Now the ball is in my court, and I'm asking, is INEC truly independent? The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, was established by the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to, among other things, organize elections into various political offices in the country. Taken from the INEC website, the mission statement reads, "The mission of INEC is to serve as an independent and effective EMB committed to the conduct of free, fair, and credible elections for sustainable democracy in Nigeria." Listed among its values are: 1. INEC shall ensure that no action or activity is taken in support of any candidate or political party. 2. INEC shall ensure the creation of a level playing field for all political parties. And 3. INEC shall ensure fairness and justice in dealing with all stakeholders. The 2015 timetable and subsequent postponement due to the said alert from the security system that would protect people and facilities of the electoral body indicated that INEC was somehow dependent. Now we have the recent appointment of Amina Zakari, a niece or step-niece of the president, as the chairperson of INEC Advisory Committee and Presidential Election Collation Center Committee. The contesting parties, including the main opposition party, People's Democratic Party, PDP, have openly rejected her appointment. As stated by Joseph Stalin, the people who cast the votes decide nothing. The people who count the votes decide everything. Is INEC truly acting as an independent electoral body? I'm inclined to believe that they are not, and thus putting our young and fragile democracy very much at risk. I rest my case.
Has it been proven that she's Buhari's niece? Because honestly,
you keep hearing
I'm
it.
so bored with this thing.
Why are you bored?
Okay, I'll tell you why.
The
Has
question
she been
is
proven?
INEC independent?
No, the question is, first of all,
Let's deal with the Amina Zakari
is
issue.
INEC independent? Because the whole thing is about Amina Zakari.
Another matters.
And the question is, has anybody been able to prove whether she's related
Yes,
to Buhari?
actually, when it came, Buhari himself, his spokespeople, when it came out, they came out and said, well, actually, it's not a blood niece, it's through marriage.
Right, so that's number one. Number two is she wasn't first employed by Buhari.
It doesn't matter.
Actually,
I've heard that argument
matter.
over and over again. It doesn't matter. It was GJ that employed her. And yeah.
Okay.
Should I be related to Buhari?
Ireti,
So I don't deserve it.
I want to answer you.
Right. So should I be related to Buhari? Okay, and I'm entitled, I'm qualified rather for a job. Should I not get the job?
You shouldn't get this job.
Really?
Yes, you shouldn't get this particular job.
Number two is, you know there are two committees in INEC. That she's only part of one committee.
Yeah.
That's the internal committee.
Yeah.
Not the committee that's going to be counting the votes. That's not where she is.
We don't care where she is. We need her in order for the stakeholders to feel like everything is a level playing field.
I agree.
She just needs to leave.
There's a thin line, because Buhari himself should have been a little bit careful, and maybe she should have been careful, because this is a man that's been accused of nepotism.
Thank you.
Throughout his administration so far. But I also don't think that it's fair, and I don't know whether I necessarily believe you or believe the person that said it's a step-niece. I haven't read that anyway.
No, I've read the step-niece.
I'll take that.
Basically, she's married. The mother of Amina Zakari is Buhari's sister. She's married to the father, and the father. So this child was born from another woman, and Buhari. And so Buhari's sister is the stepdaughter.
Please do, because
Amina Zakari's father married to Buhari's older sister.
Yes, that's
Buhari.
Buhari, from the story, grew up
in the father's house.
Yeah. Amina
So
Zakari
there's
from Kazari
Close relationship.
in Jigawa
Because I was going to say she's not from Daura.
Amina
You
Zakari
know
is
that.
from Kazari in Jigawa State. That Buhari is from Daura. Kazari, though in Jigawa, is just a stone throw from Daura.
Yeah.
I've been to these two places. But really the issue, I've debated this issue on another platform.
Let me just ask
But
before
for
you
me,
go any further. From what I understand, the House of Senate are meant to confirm even if President Buhari nominates, they're meant to...
No, these are not... She's already a commissioner in INEC. These are
she was already there
shuffling.
before.
Was it not the one that appointed her in 2015? Was it GJ that did that?
Yeah, but she wasn't GJ's niece.
Exactly. Now that, thank you. Now that,
so should they sack her?
No, just move her to a different department for now. I don't really care where. Right now,
let's be quite blunt about this.
Okay.
You said should they sack her? I think she should be removed from INEC. The moment she becomes compromised, she has to go.
First and foremost, from the way the appointment of the chairman is made and the way the appointment of the resident electoral commissioners are made shows truly that INEC is just independent in name, but not independent indeed.
Yes.
Because if you remember, when Yar'Adua came on board, he did admit that the election that brought him to office were largely flawed.
Yeah,
and so he set up a committee to actually look at ways of overhauling INEC and the electoral processes. The APC at that time were, though in different parties, we were largely in opposition. And so they embraced that what was also known as Ways Panel report. And some of the recommendations, laudable, talked about the chairman of INEC, how it should be appointed, and then the resident electoral commissioners. If you remember also, I think it was Donald Duke then who granted an interview, and it was titled, How REC Wrecks Election.
Okay.
The resident electoral commissioner. And so, if we've still retained status quo, starting from the days of Morrissey, who, how elections were, it took the innovation of Jega to tilt the balance a little bit. And so all of these people are human beings, and we know that there's every likelihood of bias in, human activities. And so that's why you use, law actually shapes society. And that's why we try as much as we can to find laws to
Which is
shape
why I was asking
on,
about the House of Senate. What is the system
so when
in
you
place
leave
to check this?
the status quo the way it is, and then you say the body will be independent, I doubt if we are
how's that going to be?
Achieve independence. And then coming to the issue, the case of Amina Zakari, it's not about qualification.
Exactly.
It's more about morality, about integrity. If people know, if for example now Ireti, tomorrow you become a judge, and they know that I have a relationship with you, and the moment I have a matter in your court,
Are you coming out? Are you declaring?
No, I have to definitely, step down.
Yeah, the lawyer on the other side will say, these people have a relationship.
Yes.
We might not
This
necessarily
happens
be
in every corporate environment.
I get it. Nigerian corporate environment is far too sensitive anyway.
And so these are some of the issues to promote, integrity in the process. There's need for some persons to say,
step down.
To say, look, you know what? If my being part of this process will create all of this noise, I think honorably I would want to step aside. So for the purpose of the institution. But when we now begin to debate it, it creates a big doubt.
Absolutely. And imagine if she actually stepped down, the amount of confidence it would inspire in the nation as a whole.
Kemi Adeosun.
Yes.
No matter the misgivings we had about her, the moment she said, you know what?
She did the honorable thing. She did the honorable thing.
She said, I would wait till after the investigation. If I'm found to be culpable, I will step down.
And she did, yeah.
After that.
The bottom line is, is INEC independent?
Yeah, and that's where I'm going. And that's where I'm actually going with my point, is that we are not. And for everything, that word independent, there are people who stretch it.
So I am talking about information and the vote. Information is key to enhance the power of choice for voters. In an age of multiple platforms for dissemination of information, no voter ought to head to the polls with empty ideals and ideas. No vote should be cast in total ignorance. Social media is a whole new multiplicity of platforms brimming with news. But this flood of information comes with a problem: fake news. Donald Trump calls CNN fake news. He's scared of something. But most use this term in reference to social media platforms. The government of Nigeria appears to think it is the only attribute of these platforms, so they look for ways to clamp down on it. Keen users of these platforms will agree that there is a lot of good that comes out of it. Voters are empowered from the vast and true news that spill out. Fake news, it always gets negated by other news or rebuttals. How about the truth? Someone's scared, and voters will learn the truth. Yes, there's more truth in the news than fake. Let's all be informed. No vote without adequate information. Tell the news to relatives who are barely literate. Tell those who may not be able to afford laptops, radios, or television. Information is power, and that's true. the vote is the expression of that power.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Like they say, the greatest form of corruption is when you deny a man the opportunity to determine who governs him. And so in also being able to determine who governs you, you need to have information. And that brings us back to that, first issue. How much does these posters do? And how much of
what
these
informs
people
your vote
do we know?
Yes.
And so a lot of them are trying to reach out. Yes. Some of us have volunteered for some people, but yet there's a lot that needs to be done. And like you said, yes, fake news, there's always a rebutter. Yes. But sometimes now even the real news are rebutted, yes. As fake.
Yeah.
But the good part of it is that unlike those days when somebody claims monopoly of information, now information is with a click of the button. You can access information anywhere.
There's still propaganda. Yes, of course there is.
I know social media is still very dangerous as a reference point.
What you call propaganda sometimes are barrage of information. And so and also, it beholds on you, who is the opponent, to either rebut, also counter with information. Because, like they say, when rumors start to spread, even intellectuals are turned to conveyor belts.
Absolutely.
So, if you keep quiet, you might be overwhelmed with the barrage of information. And then it is easy for you to say, oh, they are propaganda. But somewhere down the line, it's sinking in the mind of people. So that's why you also need to counter information with information. And so, at elections like this, even, when it's not election, what makes politicians important is how well they're able to pass information or how well they are able to create alternative information.
And this is why I love social media, especially Twitter.
I thought you were going to say town hall meetings.
I said I don't sleep on it.
Ireti hasn't forgotten this
I'm
one.
not going to forget that.
That's the reason I love it, because, once upon a time, people could put out information about people and, especially celebrities, and they won't even have the opportunity to come back and say whatever. But now everybody's on Twitter.
Have a conversation.
So when an article is put out by someone, they can come back and say, look, that's a lie, And I know how you all on this panel seem to be hating the Donald, but I'm not with you.
Okay.
No, that's another branch. That's going to be another show.
The
Donald?
I've been sitting here listening to all your
The
liberal
Donald?
talk.
What has it got to do with?
No, the fact of the matter is there is fake news. He's absolutely right.
But we didn't need him to tell us.
Hang on. The reason Twitter has worked in his favor, because let me let you know that it's the mainstream media is owned by the liberals in America. So they put out the rhetoric they want to put out.
And there is also conservative
the reason
news
Donald
media,
held
by the
on
way.
to his own Twitter handle was so that he could pass information out directly to the people without any kind. Yes, that's my...
More like misinformation.
No, it's
We're
not
about to branch onto Donald. The Donald. Let's not branch onto the Donald.
Can I come on to this information?
As long as you're not talking about
I'm
the
not talking
Donald.
about Donald.
I'm not holding my breath because I can just smell the liberals all around.
No, how can you tell us all liberals?
I wear my liberal wig
that right now. Thank you very much.
Liberal white.
Yeah. No, but the truth is...
So you wear your liberal.
No, but the truth about social media, even though news is put out in bite size that people should be able to digest, people just read the headlines and they don't even delve into the articles. So a lot of the time, people are even still... No, what I'm telling you is I'm giving you both angles. I don't have to always stay on one side.
We don't have to be liberal just because we don't like Donald.
Fine, but I don't have to stay on one side. I'm just trying to explain to you that, you were saying, we can pass news through social media. People can read. People don't read anymore. Even the highly intellectual people don't read anymore.
Where do you stand on this? That's what
Mine is
that's
TV.
What I'm saying. You are blowing hot and cold.
My
TV.
Mine is TV.
Because
that is the only...
Because the same Donald Trump who...
I thought we're not going back to
No, I'm not going there. I'm just using it to information, to
make
a point.
Started.
The way, he bamboozled the people with what you initially labeled propaganda.
Which may not agree
and it
with.
was information
to
people then. But now, people are beginning to see that those information actually were not, genuine. We're not
It's not
real.
true, actually.
And so
it's not true.
It depends on the side
but
of
again,
the
we're going...
Exactly.
Exactly.
And then, secondly, that's why I said that you need to counter information with information.
Yeah, and that's...
You understand? And so, if I decide to sit down and feed... I said, when rumor, what we used to call gossip those days, is now called fake news. You know, what we used to call rumor is now propaganda. There are bigger names for these things now. And so when you
and don't
are the
forget
only
hate
one,
speech.
when you are the only one feeding the people with this news, and there is nobody countering them, it becomes, you know, the news until somebody comes. That's why you need to counter information with information.
Yeah, with information.
And for us, taking it back home, bringing it home, for us, our politicians, yes, we always find a way to decipher, to filter the fake from the real.
Yeah.
And that's why at every point, you see now, if somebody had told you that those days, governors and presidents will have special advisors on new media, you would not believe.
Yeah.
But those special advisors are not doing enough.
Yeah.
So I'll
now
come
we
in
know
on
them
this
as spin
information
doctors.
thing.
Yeah.
So with this information, I totally agree with Liborous. And I
Oh,
also
today has
think-
been a loving.
What can I say?
They're loud. It's allowed.
It's loud.
We'll
It's
swap
allowed.
seats next
No, please stay here.
Please go ahead.
He's a liberal.
I know he is, but he's a cute liberal.
Okay, carry on.
No, really, where I tell you what I'm afraid of in this country is where if we're not careful, and you're right with what you said, with actually not just owning the information, discounting fake information, and actually making sure that we disseminate and share truth, you know, real truth, we will end up with not only voter apathy, but we'll also continue to end up with the wrong people ruling us. And it's my turn. I'm going to be asking, why is it okay to use and dispose of Nigerians in the diaspora as we like? With only 35 days to the 2019 general elections, my thoughts veer towards Nigerians living abroad. It's customary for our presidential candidates to travel overseas as part of their campaign, often giving us an insight into their presidential mindset and idiosyncrasies. Apparently, there are an estimated 1.3 million Nigerians in the diaspora. This number is arguably conservative, not least because it discounts the hundreds, possibly millions of unregistered illegal immigrants. According to the World Bank, Nigerians in the diaspora sent home $22 billion in 2017, the second largest source of foreign exchange into the country and the highest home remittance in sub-Saharan Africa. We are also quick to claim our brethren making waves abroad, even if all they have is a minutiae of Nigerian blood in their possibly inconsequential ancestry. Once captured, they are whisked to Aso Rock, pictured for the perfunctory handshake, exhibited around the country like a prized bull, and lauded by our ever so obedient press. And if they didn't hold a Nigerian passport on arrival, they certainly will before they exit the villa. So why are diasporic Nigerians denied their right to vote? The case for diasporic voting was presented to the National Assembly by Chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu. In his address, amongst many things, he said, INEC believes that Nigerians living outside the country should have the right to vote. So why the lethargic approach to including a critical mass of Nigerian nationals in our electoral process just because they live abroad?
You made me go and do some research. And actually, I found that not many African countries have that policy where the nationals who are living abroad are allowed to vote. The only two African countries I found were South Africa and Namibia. So it's not necessarily that commonplace in Africa. Not that you're trying to say that that justifies the way we behave. And then you find that, yeah, exactly. But you also find that even in foreign countries, they have constraints on how they allow them to vote as well. So you have, I think in America, they're only allowed to vote in
the embassies. The embassies.
And that's part of why the problems in Nigerian embassies, that's what the Nigerian embassies are actually saying. That's what they're saying, especially in America. The UK is that Nigerians don't register abroad. The Nigerians abroad don't register, and so they don't have a proper database.
Okay.
Hence why they're not able to vote.
Exactly.
But I'm saying that, I'm saying that it's one of those cases in where there's a will. There's a way. If we really, because we're quick to claim them, aren't they? Even those who are going on snow. Yeah. Who was the last person to see snow in Nigeria? But we claimed them very quickly, but yet they can't vote.
But really, like we all agree, if when there is a will, there must be a way. If the authorities need first to agree that there's need for diaspora voting, and then we now begin to create
platforms to ensure that it becomes a success.
I think President Buhari actually acknowledged that. He said he hoped it would kick in.
It's not about hoping, everybody hopes here.
Yeah.
We hope we'll live in, Eldorado. But it is actually putting structures in place for those that are registered.
Yeah.
So it is not enough to dismiss the fact that, yes, we don't have registered Nigerians. A lot of them don't register. So if people now know that, look, you can actually, if you register, you'll be eligible. So a lot of them will go
They
register.
would. I agree. I agree.
So just like you are a Nigerian abroad, you can't procure your Nigerian passport.
Yes.
We know the problems that are associated with procuring Nigerian passport abroad, but there is still a window to enable you do that.
Absolutely.
And so why can't we, have that window to ensure that, diasporans, who are eligible have that privilege, to vote. It will actually, also help the system.
Of course.
So it won't just be a case of you sit down in Europe or in America and then you argue Nigerian politics on Twitter. You're so passionate about it. But when it comes to determining, people who governs, you're not involved.
And you know that a lot of, we've discussed it on this show where we've talked about the politicians that go abroad. They're doing a campaign. They'll go to, especially in England.
Yeah,
they all do it.
On the bus.
And often, if you look in the audience, it's full of Nigerians. Yeah. Nigerians are there in the diaspora. They're asking questions, wanting to know what's going back home.
Yeah, but who is expected to campaign on behalf of the Nigerians in diaspora? It should be them, because
they have been campaigning.
Yeah, so then why is there a delay in anything happening?
It's a lethargy from the government again. It's a lethargy. Like I said, one of the arguments that's used is about database. Yes, we know we're really bad at collecting information and saving and statistics, etc., etc. But what I'm actually saying is, how about we start from somewhere? Because in actual fact, if you speak to when what's it called, the General Counsel for New York, is that what we have? The General Counsel for in New York, which is the ambassador, if you like. Okay. The Nigerian General Counsel for New York. What he actually said is, he said, look, if Nigerians come and register, if they actually come and register, we'll be able to put a database together, and therefore would have something to pass to INEC in Nigeria.
Just out of
but they don't have it. That's what he's saying. That's what I agree with you.
You need to create a
start
platform
from somewhere,
for registration before Nigerians come
make it user-friendly.
And not make exactly.
No, but let me even just ask, and maybe I'll throw in my own conspiracy theory in there. If you say that there's a lethargy from government, why is that? My reason being that if someone like Shore, who we know is very popular overseas, had the incentive, if he was in pole position to run for president, which he might think he is, he'll be motivated and gingered and somehow to go there and get those people registered, because they'll count in his favor.
But
so maybe that the current government don't see that those people are his mass.
Continuing your devil's advocate
the theory.
Conspiracy theory.
Another problem really is that, once you are in government, you believe everything you do is right. And once you are in opposition, everything the government does is wrong.
Is wrong.
And so you find out that some politicians in opposition, the moment the government says, okay, let's create opportunity for diaspora voting, they say, oh, you want to use that to rig election.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
So if it is an idea mooted by the opposition, the government says, oh, the opposition, because they go abroad to talk to people. But we need to look at the viability. We need to look at the numbers, and then also find a way, because if we say the world is becoming a global village, at some point we really need to find
let me just come in here. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, actually, but many Nigerians do not feel that Nigerians abroad have any right to say, when we're arguing Nigerian politics, just pay some attention to social media. You're arguing Nigerian politics, and somebody from that's based in America says something. They say, look, until you come back home, you have no business giving us your...
Uche is right, but I don't think that's the same as...
No, and then also, somebody even put out... No, what I'm saying is that if we saw ourselves as a collective, like those of us here and those of us over there, if we actually saw ourselves as one and not, separate ourselves into groups of, you don't have any right to say, then maybe
but that would be disingenuous, because if you're living in America and I'm living here, our lives are totally different.
You see, this is the point. And this is the reason why.
But we're all pushing for the same objective.
Not necessarily. I have friends who live abroad
when they talk about Nigeria, they talk about Nigerians derogatorily, and then they want to tell you what you should do.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly.
Nigerians, how come you people are not on the streets? You know, if this had happened in other places,
And just very
then you now
quickly-
say, you know what, you can't sit down there and tell me to be on the street.
And then somebody
Come down
said
there,
that
lead us.
Nigerians in diaspora.
Okay,
Sorry, just very quickly. Somebody said Nigerians in diaspora will definitely want to keep the current government in power because now that sending money to Nigeria is a lot cheaper for them than if somebody.
That's my point. We always want their money.
Enough time to talk about everything we want to talk about. Thank you for staying with us on this riveting broadcast. I know we've launched into all things electoral. Next time we'll bring you a diversity of topics. Please feel free to continue the debate, continue the discussion on our social media platforms, on Instagram, Plus TV Africa, and on Twitter at Plus TV Africa, #TheAdvocate. Feel free to either agree or disagree with us, and we'd love to hear from you. All that remains is for me to thank my lovely fellow advocates, Liborous, Ireti, Uche, and Chuka. It's been a pleasure being with them on this broadcast. Hit us again next week when we'll be bringing you stirring topics, no holds barred. Have a lovely week ahead. Welcome to The Advocate, a program that thrashes out all the topical issues of the day.
We've had Dasuki chilling in and out. We don't even know what is going on.
We never actually ever hear the truth. Everybody's the same, and that the same thing that's been going on with Jonathan is going on right now.
Statistically, women are more than the men, but in Nigeria, politics is more of a game of strength than numbers.
One of the reasons why we don't have more women in politics in Nigeria is for as long as political meetings continue to take place in the middle of the night.
Exactly.
Nigerians have never been more ready for a change. Somebody's got to sit down to say that this is my strategy for making change.
And it has to be a unite.
Frankly, Nigeria is becoming a very ugly place. Everywhere. In the villages are worse.
We have a heritage, but dirty heritage.
Basically, and that's it. I don't think we know beautiful things anymore.
You depress me.
Look, Ankara
Let's go.
And Tiwa.